Hi, I'm Cindy Cohen. In our last conversation, we heard a leader describe the difference between management and leadership, moving from executing the checklist to setting direction. But what happens when someone needs to make that shift and can't? I wanted to get a coach's perspective on this. Kelly is an executive coach who helps leaders navigate high stakes transformations. Kelly Schmidt, welcome.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
What do you do when a leader is stuck in the checklist and can't see the bigger picture?
That question comes up a lot with many of the folks that I coach now. When you think about somebody transitioning from one level of leadership to the other, oftentimes they're getting into that position because they were really good at their old job. And then making that transition also means that you're not necessarily going to use those same skills. So when I hear that they are getting stuck in it, one of the first things we do is try to shift the focus from output, all the milestones and the checklist, to outcomes. What's the big thing that we're playing for? When I think about how to prompt somebody for that reflection, I usually anchor first to what are they playing for? What's that big picture? How clear are they on that so that they can start to see how much they've articulated the difference between the output and the outcomes? I want them to talk about what it's going to look like, feel like, and sound like when they've gotten there. Once they've done that, then we can start to think about how to establish boundaries for it. Because the other reason that I see a lot of folks trying to manage the checklist is they want to make sure it's all being done. And you don't want to get into micromanaging, but you do need to know, are things on track? So the other question I like to ask when we think about shifting from checklist into the bigger picture is thinking about how will you know if something's going wrong, and working with the client on what are the questions they could ask, how do they want to get status, so that they can have those mechanisms to know that things are on track without giving up all control, and instead getting them to focus on, is the team performing well? Are they helping the organization get where they need to go? As opposed to worrying about, are they doing it exactly the way that I would do it if I was in that position? Because it's a really big shift, because oftentimes they know how they would do it, but not necessarily how they could empower others to be able to do that. So I would look first at anchoring to what it's going to sound like, setting some clear boundaries. And the final piece is really, how do you communicate that to your team so that they're clear on what are they playing for, when you might check in, and what decisions are even theirs, and what you'd like escalated. So you've got clear boundaries of who's going to do what and how are you going to support them.
Kelly, thank you. That shift from checklist to perspective is where leadership really begins. So, for anyone watching, it's worth asking, where might you be solving tasks when the moment is asking for direction? More conversations like this in the Alefitt series. Start small, get clear.